Love bombing. Picture this. You meet someone. Within 48 hours, they're texting you, "Good morning," remembering random stories about your childhood, calling you their soulmate. You're thinking, finally, someone who gets me. Here's what's actually happening. You're not experiencing love. You're experiencing dopamine hacking. That person isn't connecting with you. They're studying you like a vault they need to crack. Every compliment, every late night conversation, that's not romance. That's data mining. They're scanning for insecurities and weak spots. You mention you feel invisible at work, suddenly you're the most extraordinary person they've ever met. You mention your ex forgot your birthday, they're planning a surprise party in week 2. This is a drug dealer giving you the first hit for free. They flood your brain with validation because they know what comes next. Withdrawal. Once you're addicted, once your brain expects that intensity, they yank it away. And that's when they own you. The science? Intermittent reinforcement. Your brain gets hooked on unpredictable rewards. Praise one day, coldness the next. Creates a dopamine loop stronger than consistency ever could. Slot machines use the same mechanism. Beansteak, love bombing is a free trial that converts into a subscription you can't cancel. They're not building a relationship, they're building leverage. By the time you realize the perfect person was a performance, you're already hooked, making excuses, wondering what you did wrong. Spoiler, you did nothing wrong. You just met a con artist who knew exactly which buttons to press because you told them in week 1. Gaslighting. You remember a conversation clearly. They said they'd pick you up at 7, but now they're insisting they said 8, and you're the one who always gets confused. You start doubting yourself. Maybe I did hear it wrong. Here's what's actually happening. This isn't a misunderstanding. This is memory manipulation. They're not confused. They're rewriting your reality file by file. Every time they deny something you know happened, every time they flip the script and make you the unreliable narrator, they're installing doubt like malware into your brain. The process is simple. Deny, deflect, counter-accuse. You say, "You promised to call." They say, "I never said that. You're being paranoid. Why are you always so dramatic?" Now you're not discussing the broken promise. You're defending your sanity. The science, cognitive dissonance. Your brain hates contradiction. When someone confidently denies your reality, your mind scrambles to resolve the conflict. And here's the trap. It's easier to doubt yourself than to accept that someone you trust is lying to your face. So your brain rewrites the memory to match their version. Beansteak? Gaslighting is someone hacking your hard drive and editing the files while convincing you the corrupted version was there all along. They're not arguing with you. They're making you argue with yourself. And once you stop trusting your own memory, they can tell you anything and you'll believe it. Guilt tripping. Picture this. You want to set a boundary. Maybe you can't help them move this weekend, or you need space. Their response? "After everything I've done for you, I guess I know where I stand." Suddenly, you feel like the villain. Here's what's actually happening. This isn't guilt. This is emotional extortion. They're not reminding you of kindness. They're presenting an invoice for something you never agreed to pay back. Every favor, every sacrifice they made, those weren't gifts. Those were investments they're now cashing in with interest. The setup is brilliant. They do things for you without asking, then weaponize your gratitude. You didn't request their help, but now you owe them. They frame their choices as your debt. "I canceled my plans for you. I was there when no one else was. And this is how you repay me?" The science? Reciprocity bias. Humans are hardwired to return favors. We feel psychological discomfort when we owe someone. Manipulators exploit this by keeping a mental ledger of every nice thing they've done, then cashing it in when you try to assert yourself. Beansteak. Guilt tripping is a loan shark operation disguised as friendship. They give you help you never asked for, then charge compound interest when you try to leave. Real generosity doesn't come with receipts. If someone's keeping score, you're not in a relationship, you're in a transaction. And the scariest part? You'll apologize for having needs. The silent treatment. You had a disagreement, nothing major, but now they've vanished. No texts, no calls, complete radio silence. You're panicking, wondering what you did wrong, ready to apologize for something you can't even name. Here's what's actually happening. This isn't someone needing space. This is deliberate punishment. They're not processing emotions. They're training you like a lab rat. The message is clear. Displease me, and I'll cut off your oxygen supply. The silent treatment isn't withdrawal. It's psychological warfare. The mechanism is calculated. They know you'll spiral. They know you'll replay the argument. Blame yourself. Craft the perfect apology. While you're drowning in anxiety, they're in control, watching you scramble. The silence isn't about them being hurt. It's about making you hurt more. The science? Ostracism triggers the same brain regions as physical pain. MRI studies show social rejection activates your anterior cingulate cortex, the part that responds to actual injury. Your brain interprets being ignored as a survival threat. We're tribal creatures. Exclusion once meant death. Beansteak? The silent treatment is cutting someone's internet connection and charging them a fee to reconnect. It's not communication. It's control through deprivation. Healthy people say, I need time to think. Manipulators disappear to make you desperate enough to accept blame you don't deserve. By the time they respond, you're so relieved they're back, you'll agree to anything. Projection. Picture this. They accuse you of being jealous, controlling, or dishonest. You're confused because you're not doing any of that. But they're so convinced, so detailed in their accusations, that you start wondering if maybe they're right. Here's what's actually happening. This isn't observation. This is confession disguised as accusation. They're not describing you. They're describing themselves. Every flaw they point out in you, that's their own inventory list. They're the jealous one, the liar, the cheat. But instead of owning it, they're projecting it onto you like a movie onto a screen. The tactic is genius. By accusing you first, they preemptively deflect suspicion. You're too busy defending yourself to notice they're doing exactly what they're accusing you of. They cheat, then accuse you of cheating. They lie, then call you untrustworthy. It's offensive defense. The science? Psychological projection. It's a defense mechanism where people externalize their own unacceptable traits onto others. Their brain can't handle the cognitive dissonance of being the bad guy, so it rewrites reality. I'm not the problem. You are. Beans take? Projection is someone spilling coffee on your shirt, then yelling at you for being clumsy. They're handing you their crimes and making you hold the evidence. If someone constantly accuses you of things that seem to come out of nowhere, check their hands. They're probably holding exactly what they're accusing you of. Triangulation. Picture this. They casually mention how their ex still texts them, or how their coworker is so understanding. Suddenly, you feel like you're competing for a spot you thought was already yours. Here's what's actually happening. This isn't innocent conversation. This is manufactured competition. They're introducing a third party, real or imaginary, to make you feel replaceable. You're not in a relationship. You're in a contest. And the prize? Their approval. The tactic. They dangle someone else's interest to trigger insecurity. My ex says I look good. Someone at work actually listens to me. The message? You're insufficient. There's a backup. Work harder. The science? Mate retention anxiety. When we perceive competition, our brains flood with stress hormones. We become more compliant, eager to please. Manipulators weaponize this evolutionary response. Beans take. Triangulation is creating a fake bidding war to inflate your own value. Healthy relationships don't have auditions. If someone keeps reminding you others are interested, they're not committed. They're keeping inventory. Playing the victim. You confront them about something they did wrong. Before you finish your sentence, they're crying, saying how hard their life is, how much they're struggling. Now you're comforting them instead of getting your apology. Here's what's actually happening. This isn't vulnerability. This is tactical deflection. They're not showing you their pain. They're weaponizing it. You came in with a legitimate complaint, and somehow you're leaving as the bad guy who kicked them while they were down. The reversal is instant. You say, you hurt me. They respond with, how could you bring this up? Don't you see what I'm going through? Your problem vanishes. Their suffering becomes the only thing that matters. You're no longer the victim. You're the villain for even mentioning it. The science? Emotional hijacking. By flooding the situation with their own distress, they trigger your empathy response and shut down your anger. Your brain switches from defend yourself mode to caretaker mode. The original issue? Buried under their tears. Beans take? Playing the victim is pulling a fire alarm during your performance review. They're not addressing the issue. They're creating a bigger crisis, so yours gets forgotten. Real accountability doesn't come with a sob story attached. If every time you have a problem, they have a bigger problem, you're not dealing with emotions. You're dealing with strategy. Negging. Picture this. They give you a compliment that somehow makes you feel worse. You're pretty smart for someone who didn't go to college. I like that you don't care what you look like. Wait, was that an insult or a compliment? Here's what's actually happening. This isn't awkward flirting. This is strategic demolition. They're wrapping criticism in a compliment wrapper, delivering poison as a gift. The goal? Lower your self-esteem just enough that you seek their validation to feel whole again. The formula is surgical. Compliment plus backhanded insult cause confusion. You're attractive for your age. You're funny in a weird way. Your brain doesn't know whether to say thank you or feel offended, so it defaults to insecurity. And insecure people are easier to control. The science? Cognitive dissonance. Mixed signals scramble your emotional response. You can't process the compliment because the insult contaminates it. Studies show negging works by triggering self-doubt, making targets more likely to seek approval from the person who planted the doubt. Beans take. Negging is sending you a gift box with a bomb inside. It looks like kindness, but it's designed to explode your confidence. Genuine compliments don't come with terms and conditions. If someone's praise makes you feel like you need to prove yourself, they're not building you up, they're setting you up. 8 tactics. 1 goal. Control. Manipulators rely on your silence and self-doubt. They count on you thinking, maybe I'm overreacting. You're not. Your gut knew something was off. If someone checked multiple boxes here, that's not coincidence. That's a pattern. Being kind doesn't mean being available for exploitation. Trust your reality. Protect your peace. Bean out.